Oh boy. Chuck was dancing a little bit too much to that. That's awesome.
Every time I hear that, it's like, it's the PhxDev show with your host, Mark Scott. You just have to. I'm going to do that for you so you can put the voiceover in there when I'm not around.
So there may be a surprise next week. I'm just saying. I might have a surprise next week for you.
That is so late night talk show music. I love it. That's it. When it comes to branding a podcast or a video stream or something, the music sets the tone.
Oh,
I've known that for years. Our Technorama podcast has been going since 2005 with the same music since about 2006. And when you hear that, you just sort of get in the mood. You're in the
in the zone.
It sets you up. Yeah. It's like, now I'm ready to go. That persona is on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's funny? Because you'd said this, Chuck. It sounds like a late night talk show. I'm like, you get it. You get what? Yeah, like yes.
Well done on the branding, my friend. Well done.
All right, good. Well, what's funny? We jumped right into it. No intros, right? So, welcome everybody. My name's Mark Scott. I am the host of the PhxDev show, which is coincidentally the show that you're watching. Joining me tonight, I've got my friend Jace Benson.
Hello, glad to be here.
All right. And down below in the bottom there, we've got Chuck Tomasi.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
As if you didn't know who Chuck Tomasi.
It's Friday night. Hey, not everybody does. So, we give the intro.
If you're watching my show, I hope you know who Chuck is. Because
well, they do now. You just introduced them.
The only reason he invites me is to get more viewers on his show.
Now you got it. It's to get show ideas, music, and Chuck's name tagged into every single episode. Absolutely. If the karma trains are running, I'm hopping on it. So
it's Friday night.
It's Friday night. Yeah, I've got a beer. It's the end of the week. Jace has just telling me he had a very long week this week himself. I'm happy to be hanging out with my friends. Like, this is great. But of course, I have a topic. Like, we have to talk about a topic. But I've been trying to. But I'm like, how do I keep like the topic but make it fun like at the same time? So I'm like, all right, we've got to have some like roll in. But we were all talking and dancing and everything. I totally just got thrown off. So
that's the best kind. That's the best kind.
It's the random kind, right? So
it's the organic ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a terrible segue. Into note taking. Which I think, first of all, let's talk about note taking, right? I want to talk about what the difference is between professional note taking and academic note taking, because I know there are a lot of people out there that are just getting started in their career. I'm trying to target the early in career folks, right? So there's a difference between when you get out of school and you take notes and when you're actually in a job taking notes. There's a
long time since I was in school.
Well, I wasn't going to point it out, but a few of us, we're a little long in the tooth, a little long in the beard, or gray in the beard, if you want to say that. But I remember taking notes distinctly, very differently in school, and what they taught us in school was very different than what I actually needed in the job. So
I remember mine is a lot of copying. Whatever they wrote on the board, you wrote in your notebook.
Exactly.
That's true.
So let's dive into it, because that's exactly what I wanted to bring up, right?
Now I wish I just had a smartphone back there and go, click, done.
Done. And that's the difference.
Except when you write it, it makes a stronger connection in your brain. Even if someone else is saying it and writing it, if you write it down, even though you're just going like robotic copying,
right,
it will stick better. So if you just took a picture and went, okay,
right, you're not going to remember that.
Yeah, although one could say, I'm not advocating for this. One could say, if you didn't have to focus on your writing, you could focus on what was being said. You could really, listen to what was being said.
Yeah, and that's, I think so. So pulling that back, right, to the academic, like I don't, when I'm taking notes professionally, right, I'm not trying to write every single thing down, right? It's not, I'm not trying to take notes of every single thing that every single person is saying. That, to me, that's the big difference between academic and professional note taking.
There's like categories of notes.
Sure. I mean, absolutely. If you're a project manager and you need to know exactly what's going on in the Scrum meeting, like you're going to take notes for everything that's being said, right? But as a developer, or as a technical person, or if I'm in a technical meeting or a design meeting, I'm only going to take notes for the things that are important to me. I don't need to take notes for every single other person in the room, because I'm not going to share those notes with every single person in the room, because most of the time it's chicken scratch anyway. But
unless you're the facilitator and you're expecting, or the
absolutely.
note taker, there
That's-
are meetings where you have a role as a note taker and you've got to be capturing it at a little different level.
Right. And that's generally called out, which I think is really awesome,
Yeah.
right? When someone says, who wants to be scribe, right? And then usually someone raises their hand and they're just in the corner writing, right? And that's great.
Or typing.
Or typing.
Yep.
Typing works too, right? If you're doing scribe, that works. But I do want to make that distinction, right? If you're generally in a meeting and you're taking notes, you tend to take notes on your own. It's for your own purposes. It's for your own reference. You're going to go back and and this is for why I take notes, because I hate taking notes. It's like, if my boss goes back and asks me a question, I want to be able to refer back to something. It isn't for everyone else's kind of viewpoint, right? You're not trying to make sure that everyone has, there's this fact and then these things about that fact. It's like, no, it's just what you are working on. Whatever you find pertinent, that's what professional note taking.
Glad I'm not the only one who sits in meetings when 80% of it is just going in one ear and out the other. It's like, this isn't my topic. I'm not the audience. I'm going to wait for them to say something that I care about.
Right. And that's go ahead, Jace.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not saying anything that you need to take action on later, like either following up or a task that you need to do or something you need to research, generally, like, I don't take that note.
Yeah, it may be important for the future as well.
Right.
Like, hey, we're looking to add a team member.
Exactly.
Oh, make a note of that.
Take a note. Right.
You may have friends who fit that role or whatever. It's important to you. So you got to be always have that sort of radar on to go, blip, there's one that I should take a note on. So if it's important to you, or you think it might be important to you later,
write it down.
Just jot it down.
You don't have to use a note later. It's not important that you didn't use that note. It's important that you wrote it down.
Right. And if you're just starting out, overtake notes.
Yeah.
You can't, anytime you're new to a role, I do that. It's like, I'm just writing things, and if 90% of it is garbage, I'll find out what I can filter later. But it's better to have it and not use it than not have it and need it.
Exactly. And that's, to me, that's the big, like, for notes and note taking, especially it's the have it and not need it, right? I'd rather have it and not need it, because at the end of the day, I can throw the paper away. It's cheap. I can, get a new notebook, whatever it is. But if I forget something, it's a problem.
We'll talk about the tech in a little bit.
Yeah. Let's get into that, right? Like, so here's the tools for taking notes. So I gotta switch my slide because I'm using slides today. Tools. The tools for taking notes, right? Like, what do you guys like to use? I'll tell you what I like to use and how I like to do it. Chuck, I know some of yours, right? I know the Remarkable tablet's coming up, and that's on my Christmas list. I want one of those.
I've done the Jace thing too for years and years and years. People think, oh, Chuck's this high tech guy. I have done high tech. Yeah. I can type faster than I can write, and I can read my typing later, which isn't always the case with handwriting. Like, what, was I having a seizure here? I'm not sure. There's plus, electronic, people say, hey, it's searchable.
Right.
Hey, you can always do a Command F or a Control F and find whatever you're looking for.
If you can spell.
There are drawbacks, though. There are drawbacks. I mean, yes, electronic note-taking has a lot of advantages.
Sure.
Searchability, tagability, organization in folders and whatnot.
Right.
But in my mind, as soon as you open up a laptop in a meeting,
it's over.
It's over.
It's over.
Because the perception, whether it's true or not, the perception is you're not engaged.
You're screwing around.
You're checking LinkedIn or Slack or something. You're not participating. There's there's a stigma about that laptop being open that is just a liability that I refuse to engage.
Well, let's make sure, because I want to make sure, like, I've got a great story about this, right? Like, you go into a client meeting, the client's sitting there telling you all this stuff, the CEO's sitting there, and then there's someone over there doing this. That's all you hear.
If it's not their admin assistant, They're losing points at this point.
I did it once. Where I
Yeah.
was sitting there and the CEO made one comment. He said he was like, "Oh, Mark's over there writing it already." And I was like, "Oh man. Oh
Called
man, I
out.
knew what my mistake was." Like, oh, immediately knew what my mistake was. Like, oh man, and I'll Dieter Gable, he was the CEO at the time of TB Consulting, right? Like, it just I Dieter, like, somehow if you're watching this, right, like it was the best wake up call you ever gave me without actually making me feel like terrible about myself. So thank you about that. But like,
Don't be that guy.
no, don't be that guy. Don't be that person. Don't be in
girl,
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be sitting there clacking away like whatever. Like, it's not worth it. So we've made that, like, laptops are out, like, completely. Like, don't take notes on a laptop. It's terrible. So Jace, I know you like handwritten notes on an actual
Wait. I
physical-
want to
okay.
qualify that a little
Go ahead.
further. Don't use a laptop for taking notes when you're with other people. If
Right.
you're watching a series of videos, for example, it's like, hey, I'm watching Chuck's JavaScript series and I want to take notes. Type away. I'm not going to crucify you because that stuff was recorded in 2019.
Yeah. And I mean, even I would argue sometimes in a Zoom meeting you can get away with it sometimes, right? Because people don't really see, like, as long as you're sitting there and you're making eye contact.
Yeah,
and,
I'm finding more and more that the cameras are on, and if the camera is on top of your monitor and you're looking down at your laptop
I know what you're
screen,
doing.
yeah, you're not engaged, you're not focused. Pay attention to me. Come on, give me that eye contact as if we were in real person here.
To the point where, like, when I wear glasses, you guys can see the reflection a little bit in my glasses.
Oh, yeah.
Like I freak out when, like, I switch tabs. Like, it's like I know I'm in a Zoom meeting and I switch tabs and you can see it. Like, you guys ever see that where the glare on someone's eyes change a little bit and you're like, oh, you're screwing around. I know what you're
All
doing.
of a sudden it gets very blue.
Yeah. Something changes. Everyone knows it. It's like, oh ho ho ho. Like, yeah. I don't know. Maybe not.
There's
Maybe
little dancing cats going across his eyes.
Yeah, you might as well have just turned off the meeting because that person just
If
flipped.
it was like TV, you would see the entire projection on your face, but we all know that's not possible.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. So Jace, you like to physically write notes. I'm in that category too, and I know Chuck's kind of in that category in a way. So
I go back and
through
forth.
it. Okay. All right.
So I'm not always on paper notes, and I'm not always on digital notes. But if I write it down on paper, like, there's no question about what I need to do with it. Like, I don't have to put it in a folder. It's just attached to the binder, right? Like, there's no organizing it. There's nothing like that. You just got to deal with it later.
Yeah. Oh, so I want to bring up a point about that because this is what actually got me away from paper notes. I kept those notes for years, right? Because I didn't know. I'm like, maybe a client will come back, right? I'll get someone else from, like, years and years and years ago. It never happened, but
you got to deal with the note eventually.
No, it never
you got to do something with it.
You have to do something with it, and that was the problem. Like, I had so many rules. I couldn't tear a page out of that note. But, like, someone would be like, "Can I borrow a piece of paper?" I'm like, no. Like, because I was afraid. I was afraid that I had lost a note. Like, have you ever, like, you're like, what did I take out of here? Like, I don't know what I took out of here. Right? Like, I was that. It was bad. It was bad. I was terrible in meetings with some of that stuff. So, all right. Sorry, I killed the moment.
That's okay. So I take paper notes sometimes, and it's really helpful for me to remember what I wrote down. When I'm writing paper notes, it's not as important what I actually write down. It's the act of writing it down.
The act of writing it. Yeah, it's that first. I don't know why. Something about writing it with your fingers makes your brain remember it.
It's I either do it with pen and paper or I write it in, like, a note-taking app like Obsidian or Notion or whatever.
Yep.
And then people have their own opinions about organizing that stuff on the computer, and that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah, that could be an episode in itself of just how you organize that kind of stuff, because it's very personal. But yeah, I don't even want to get into necessarily how we organize that stuff. But Chuck, you've got the Remarkable tablet, as far as I know.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. I've
been an Evernote user for about 12 years.
Okay.
Before that, various whatever. But I started with Evernote right before I started with ServiceNow. I remember that because it was in that in-between jobs time of a few weeks. that I signed up and got Evernote, and I think I imported a few things from other note-taking
Mhm.
systems, and I thought, "This is great. I love the integrations you've got."
Yeah.
You can mail, you can forward an email, and it's
Yeah.
a note in
It's a note.
Evernote. You can
Mhm.
tag them. I use more tags than folders. Again, we're not gonna get into the organization thing, but, that's the stuff I use if I need it searchable, if it's referenceable. That's sort of my reference library. If Jace
Okay.
puts
Okay.
something up cool on a Slack channel or a blog post or something, and I
Mhm.
wanna save that, I'm gonna save that in
Sure.
Evernote because I can always go back and search and go, "What was that ServiceNow property that Corey told me about
Mhm.
5 years ago to turn this weird thing on?" And boom, there it is. I mean, I had to
You
do
don't
some
have the memory of an elephant?
I know, and that's the reason why I keep it in Evernote is because I don't need to, I don't want to remember that. I wanna free my brain up to be
Yeah.
more creative. I mean, there was a
Right.
case where Tyler Jones, you probably don't remember Tyler Jones. He was a big UI guy, uh, came from BYU, went somewhere else about 5 years ago, I think it
Okay.
was,
Mhm.
and, I had told him, I said, "Wait a minute. How is it that we're switching between can you still get to UI 11?" I mean, this was about 2016. I said, "Can you
Right,
still get
right.
to
Yeah.
UI 11?" And he said, "Yeah, if you do a sysparm doc type or sysparm under device equals
Yikes.
blah."
Mhm.
And, I had to do a screenshot this week for our keynote next week, and they wanted something that looked really old. I said, "Oh, I can do that."
Right,
You
right.
know, so I hacked the URL and up comes UI 11 going, "Done and done." But I had to reference Evernote, and this stuff was still out there, which
Yeah.
is great. Uh, but that's what I use. I know Evernote has checklists and
Mhm, mhm.
reminders, and I
Yeah.
don't use it. It's my offline brain. It's my
Right.
reference library of what I need. It's
Yeah.
in the cloud, so if I'm, at church on their computer, I can still
Mhm.
pull it up and use it.
Right, right.
Two-factor, 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 there's my
Yeah, all
security.
day long.
Okay,
Mhm.
so make sure you're secure, kids. But for the daily note taking, for the day-to-day operations,
Mhm.
I've got 5 meetings today. I will look at my calendar in the morning and go, "What am I up against?"
Mhm.
I got an 8 o'clock with these people. I got a 10 o'clock with these people. I got a 10:30 with these people. And I have, like you said, I've got the Remarkable.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
got it when it was first being introduced. They were on special allocation, blah, 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 blah. And part of the challenge of this is the organization piece.
Sure.
I'm not gonna get into that, but
Yeah.
I have a monthly, uh, notepad that I
Mhm.
use. I
Mhm.
just started a new one for May,
Yep.
and I put down all of my things. Now, I am a big icon guy. I have
Mhm.
been doing check boxes with drop shadows for about 20 years,
Yeah.
because they pop off the page for me.
Right, right.
And then I started realizing, well, I wanna see what's related to an appointment. So I know you can't see it real well on the camera, but I've got calendars, meaning
Okay.
this is a meeting.
Mhm.
There's a little thumb with a string around it or finger with a string around it here to
A
remind
reminder.
myself.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Okay, so I do iconography, and I have a whole series of icons listed right here on the right-hand side
Mhm.
that I can just copy and paste. A check mark, an email envelope, an hourglass to let me know I'm waiting for something on somebody. So a lot of symbolism that I can just glance at later, but I don't have to even spend a few seconds even trying to draw a checkbox. It's like
Right.
copy, paste, there's a task that I need to come back to. Then I review that later in the day, what's not checked off. The next day from yesterday, kind of that Franklin
Mhm.
planner mentality.
Yep, yep.
And if it really needs to be put in the holy grail of task managers is Todoist. So I've got
Todoist,
Evernote for my memory, Todoist for
tasks, and
you're
things
never
to
gonna
do.
remember
Mhm.
this.
Yep.
Chuck, you're never gonna remember this when it's time to do this thing. A week from Tuesday after knowledge is over. Like, yeah, good luck with that. I'm
Yeah.
not scrolling back to the previous month and what day did I write that down? It goes in Todoist, and I'll just instead of a X through the checkbox, I use an arrow to indicate that it's been forwarded to Todoist. So
Thrown over
I
the
can
Todoist.
glance at it, and my brain goes, "You've taken care of that."
Mhm.
Now, if something isn't done over the next couple of days, so a lot of symbolism in there,
Yep.
but a lot of handwriting. So again, it's a cognitive wired in thing to
Yeah.
know what's important to me. And then I could go on all day about the device itself. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
we're going to see Sydney. I'm going to Sydney with my wife in a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
Let's load up a couple of crossword puzzles that we can do in the airport or on the
wow.
plane.
Okay.
So I can load those up as a PDF right from the browser. I go
Sure.
print to remarkable. Boom, it shows up on the device. And then of course you can write on it and erase it and all kinds of fun like that. So very versatile device in terms of that. But the note taking itself, I've really, really enjoyed this. I've had it for about 18 months and I've used maybe 15% of the storage.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
And because I was an early adopter, they gave me like a lifetime subscription to their subscription policy. If
Sure.
you got to have their Connect package if you want to
Right,
connect to Google Drive, OneNote, Dropbox, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
They continue to make enhancements, which I'm not trying to be a commercial for this device,
no,
but
no,
if you're interested, I got a promo code for you to save a few bucks. That's
Well, yeah, let me know because I've been looking at them. I've been looking at them
it's
for years, like
it's
since they.
thin, it's light. I mean, look at it. It's
Yep,
thinner
yep,
than the stylus itself. I
yeah.
mean,
And is it?
I'm really liking it.
Do you get the same kind of friction for like that was?
Oh
for me,
yeah,
that was
that's
the
their
big problem
claim to
with
fame
Dropbox.
is it feels and sounds like paper.
Wow. Okay. I
So
had a Surface for a long time. Love Surface. Love the design, the line. It was a great like kind of experiment out there.
my
Now
daughter's got one. Yeah.
my Surface my Surface Book is now showing its age where like it doesn't quite clink and let go and it doesn't
Was
quite,
it the
something like that.
slippery pen, slippery
Yeah.
glass feeling though? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like an iPad too. It's like I can't get into
I
that.
can't get over it. My hand goes too far and I can't read my handwriting. Like it's crazy. It's like someone else wrote it. Like it's a completely different tactical
No,
feel.
yeah, this looks, walks, and talks and smells like my writing right out of my notebook was
Wow,
before.
that's awesome. Would you
I wonder
so
if I was
go
gonna
ahead,
say, I
Jake.
wonder if kids are gonna be like way better at taking notes on glass because they grew up with tablets.
I don't know,
Maybe.
maybe. Tactically, like I just can't get over it. Like it's just too. And then they're
Yeah.
like, oh, here are these these super sensitive pens that have like like thousands of little pressure points that it can. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't do any good when I go sliding off the side of it. Like it doesn't help me. Like that pressure point doesn't do anything. Yeah, it was.
And it's hackable. I like it because it's hackable.
Yeah.
When I put it to sleep, I've got a custom sleep screen on here that says, "Shh, Chuck Tomasi's remarkable too is sleeping with the kitty." So you can load in your own templates. So if you don't like my note taking template, you can put in your own.
Put in your own. Mhm.
You can SSH to the thing. So it's a Linux
Wow,
system
it actually
underneath.
runs. It actually runs like a command line in the.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's neat. I
So the nerd in me appreciates it.
yeah.
I want to bring up something about that iconography
Yeah, go
stuff
ahead.
you're talking about, Chuck.
Yeah.
If you're taking notes on like a computer, and you still want to do that iconography stuff,
Mhm.
that can be really difficult.
Yeah.
But you can just do Windows dot and get to your emoji keyboard.
Yeah.
And like that's huge.
Yep.
Mac has a similar command. I think
Mac has
it's
a
like-
similar one. If you've got one of the older touch bar ones, you can bring up the emojis,
Right.
or you go up to edit symbols and emoji. But yeah,
all the
there's a
operating
number of
systems
shortcuts.
have different ones, but they're huge because then you can just be like, oh, the green checkbox in the calendar means I need
Yes.
to take
This
care of this
thing, yeah,
task
mhm.
later.
Yeah.
Or the blue box with nothing in
Yep.
it means I need to handle whatever. You define your own rules.
See,
Yeah, I mean, you might even use letter phrases like, FYI, of course. It doesn't. You just got to remember it. And I use the little finger on the string thing,
Yeah.
or string on the finger thing. I'm sorry. I
Finger
don't know
on the
what's in that drink, but it's pretty good.
Hey, Chuck's feeling pretty good. That's all right. And it's funny. You guys have me all beat. I think, like, because I actually take notes the old fashioned. I do Rocketbook. I know that's kind of it's a middle ground. So I would say Chuck's on the full digital. Jason's on the full analog.
Before I had this, I did the exact same thing with paper for
Okay.
several years. So it was.
But like the iconography, like you can't. I'm not a good artist. Like I can't do that. So like me getting a box in for just a check mark, like that's a feat.
Dude, no, you can draw a box with a drop shadow. Trust me. You can do other things like zoom in.
Right.
So I looked at an emoji with a fire or an icon for a fire, and I drew that. I spent a half hour. It was very therapeutic. Going, how's that curve? No, not quite. How's that curve? Obviously there's an undo button, which I use a lot. But it's a lot of fun. It was just kind of fun spending a few nights going, how the heck am I going to draw an hourglass?
I'm not that I
And
can't.
and there's no like graphics tools in here like a
Right,
circle, a square, a rectangle, a
right.
fill pattern.
It's
Nope, none of
freehand.
that. It's
Yeah.
all by hand. So it was
Yeah.
kind of a fun challenge to do from that perspective.
Well, I mean, so here's where I go. So I've got I've talked about this a little bit. So my go-to is Rocketbook. I love Rocketbook specifically because they have note cards. And I don't know that a
Yep.
lot of people use the note cards. The note cards for me are my favorite. Oh my gosh, I love the favorite. But I've hacked my whiteboard to be like with they've got orange triangles. All you have to do is get orange highlighter tape and just put it on whatever you want, and it becomes like a Rocketbook
Oh, that's cool.
beacon. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. But I use note cards, and the reason I do this is because like I don't like big sheets. I don't do well with that. Like I tend to I'll write too much, or I'll doodle in the margins, or I'll whatever it is. Like this to me, it's like if you look at this is my show notes from the other night or from last
Mhm.
week, where of just like, here are some timestamps of stuff. And it's like for me, I can just write that down really fast, get it
Yeah.
out there. And then the awesome part about Rocketbook is Rocketbook, you then scan it in based on this little QR code that you've got. And it digitizes your notes, whatever. There is a transcribe. So to your point about searchability, there is a transcribe where you can automatically transcribe your notes. Like, is it good? No. And it's not because
You mean turn it into OCR where it turns it
yeah,
into
it
text?
does a automatic
Yeah.
OCR where it just
This
puts
this
the
has
text
that
in.
as well, as long
Yeah,
as,
okay, okay.
you're somewhat legible. Obviously, if I start making arrows and, moving things around or writing things
Right.
sideways, it's all bets are off.
So and that's kind of where my note taking like sideways and all this. Like I do that. Like I write in the margins.
Yeah.
I do all that stuff. And so what I do is I don't actually transcribe any of it. What I do is I just take the image and I import it into OneNote. So OneNote's my big cross platform, like
Yep,
whatever,
yep.
put it in OneNote. And then what I'll do is every meeting, I just like right click and hit take notes on my own. And then I just copy, like I have all my Rocketbook stuff goes into my OneNote automatically. And I just copy and paste it into there. And there's my notes for that meeting with all the people. So that's my way of doing it. I think you guys are probably pretty similar in that, like, the Evernote, same thing, right? Where you can take the notes
Yeah.
on the meeting and just say, hey, I've tried them all. The reason I've been on OneNote and the reason why I like that is because I can click take notes on my own and it tags that Outlook calendar item. That's the one reason I'm still stuck on OneNote. Other than that,
Sure.
I have no preference because they're all the same. It's all the same anyway. Especially with the tagging and stuff. There's all you can organize it all the same. There's all file folders of tagging. There's all sorts of stuff. So it to me, like I'm stuck on Outlook and I'm stuck with OneNote because it just seems to happen. Like I have a OneNote from years and years and years. I just keep my personal OneNote on my personal stuff, and then I take my professional notes on my professional stuff, and then never the two shall meet. Except they probably do. And so I lose some things every once in a while when I go to a new employer, but oh well. And that's just kind of the way I've done it. So, think about that, right? If you're taking notes and you're using OneNote on your employer's laptop, right? If you leave, you're probably not going to be able to take it with you. It's going to be very hard to take it with you. So, think about where you're going to put your notes.
I think it was Dave Slusher that said, if you've got all your stuff stored in the cloud, it's effectively ransomware. You're
Right.
paying
Yeah.
them to hang on to your data, and if you don't keep paying them, your data's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. It's over.
Like,
Yeah.
that's a pretty cruel but effective way to think about it.
No, it is. I mean, and that's what, obviously that's what these companies do to you, right? Like they get you hooked on there and you're addicted to their service and you
Yeah.
can't move because I can't move. Like I've got a bunch of stuff in Adobe Creative Cloud. I've got almost a terabyte in Adobe Creative Cloud that I cannot move because I'm like, oh man. So yeah, it's bad. It's just you get to the point where you have to think about this stuff because you get burned once and then oh man, so take heed of our advice, right? Like put your notes somewhere other than potentially, your employer's cloud. Keep it in.
Yeah, that's a great point because I was between jobs when I
Mhm,
signed up
mhm.
with Evernote, and I was talking to Craig Stepp, and he said, "Oh, you ought to get on OneNote." And I said, "Well, work uses OneNote," and he said, "No, you can use your personal account."
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
"Well, now do I want 2 accounts on there, and which one goes in which, and how do I
Mhm.
share?" It's like, "You know what? Evernote is mine, and it
Yeah,
always will be mine, and if
yeah.
I forward something there about, you know, I'll tag it as ServiceNow corporate policy.
Sure,
It's like,
sure.
oh, the travel policy changed. At least I have that and it's mine. I know.
Right.
I probably just admitted that I'm exporting corporate data, but
No, I mean, come on,
I mean,
please. If a single ServiceNow security person is watching this stream, I would be absolutely flummoxed because I know a lot of
somebody
them.
in the chat,
like-
tell us you're that person, just so we can see Mark's
Yeah,
response.
respond if you're watching it in video on demand months later. By all means, shoot a comment in here because I'll be just absolutely just surprised. So yeah,
but that you're right. You have to think strategically when you start setting up. We're kind of off note taking, but we
Well, a
are
little bit, but
from a data retention standpoint.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about that?
yeah, yeah.
Think I may have a new job in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Mhm,
What
mhm.
happens to all of my data that I've retained? When I was let go from my last job, I had the unexpected benefit. Nobody got this. I don't know how I did.
Yeah.
But usually when they say, Mr. Tomasi, we're sorry to see you go.
Your card's
and
up.
turning your card, your phone, and your laptop and your badge. It's
Yeah.
like, and come clean out your desk at 5.
Yeah.
No, they let me take my phone and laptop
Mhm.
home.
Yeah.
I still had an account until 5 p.m.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
was at home canceling appointments. I was at home, making contacts.
Mhm.
Obviously my resume and career history document that we talked about, was that last week?
That was last week or 2 weeks ago.
Wow,
Yeah.
it's been a crazy couple of weeks, people. I just tell you, my internal calendar is totally screwed up. But I had that in the cloud, so I knew
Right,
that
right.
was mine.
Mhm.
Please don't store your resume on a corporate server.
No, and don't download it. Don't download it to your corporate laptop because if you want alarm bells to start going off, like first of all, security does run scans of files on your laptop, and the last thing they want to do is have resume 2022. It's like,
But there were a few files that were local to the C drive on my Windows machine, and I kind of wanted those, and I was glad I had the opportunity to do that. Another career tip, if you want it, export your contacts list every once in a while too.
Yeah.
To hard copy or
Yep.
or PDF to your cloud account, just so you have that information should the time come when
Yeah.
you get let go unexpectedly. You don't lose all your contacts that were in your corporate Outlook account, for example. So
Well,
anyway, that was a free
ask.
tip.
I know we're way off topic, but ask. Can I keep my laptop? Can I keep my phone? Like, because you're gonna want some of that stuff, right? Like, some
Don't
of
expect
stuff-
that you will, though. I don't
No,
know how I got
absolutely.
that because I've been in IT long enough to go, hey, Greg is being let go this afternoon, so expect his laptop at 11 a.m.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh,
'Cause you're gonna be
thanks.
wiping, re-imaging, and then sending it back out to somebody else. Yeah. Mhm. Yep. Yeah.
Well, short story, but yeah, I got VP notification that, hey, we're letting Greg go. Can you disable his account? And all of a sudden, Greg calls me up and goes, I can't log in.
Oh, my God.
And now you can't tell him, dude, you've been fired.
Terrible. It's terrible. When we're way off topic on this, but I don't care.
Sorry,
'cause
but it's
my
fun
show.
stories.
Nobody
Yeah.
pays for this, so it doesn't
Reel
matter.
us in, Jace. Reel us in.
Reel
We
us
were note taking a minute ago.
Yeah, mount us back to where we need to be. I actually, like, at one point, a friend of mine who we lived in the same apartment complex, so we carpooled to work. They let him go, and they pulled me in first. I was like, oh, why did you guys do this? Like, why did you tell me first? Like, because then I had to go walk back there and like sit down, and then he's sitting there like, what's going on? And I'm like, and all of a sudden they're like, can you come? And he's like, oh no, like, you know what I mean? Like, he
It's
knew
funny how people
exactly
can
what
read
was
that immediately. Somebody knows the vibe is off.
And you know what's fun? There's probably there's an entire generation of people out there right now that have worked 2 years and have never been in the office, right? Or never will be in the office, right?
Yeah.
That happening, and I don't know why we're talking about this in the note-taking episode, but that happening like sucks the air out of your entire day. Like, everyone walks around like, oh man, like that was rough. Like, I don't know. Like,
Am
that,
I
that
next?
just-
That's
oh,
what's going.
gosh.
It's always about what's about me. It's like, am
such
I
a-
next? Who else are they letting go today?
I mean, at least remote work, you get the dignified. You can turn off your camera and go sit in your living room and go like, I don't know what they're gonna do, if they're gonna take me next. I don't know. But when you're in the office, everyone's just sitting around like,
So January
Everybody-
12th, 2009 was our ServiceNow go live date, but it was also the date they let our CIO and our director of technology services go. And I'm the only one going, yay! Because everybody else is going, what just happened and
What
who's
just
next?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
but we had to go live.
Yeah. That's hard times. Nobody wants to be in an office with like people when layoffs are happening or let goes are happening. Like
Reel it back.
some-
Reel it back. Reel it
somehow you just know.
No
But it's
taking,
important
no
to take
taking.
notes.
back.
You know, way back when
someone's
in
let go,
2000,
Take
in
note.
2009, I wasn't using OneNote. I
Yeah.
wasn't using pen and paper. I was using Tiddlywink.
Oh my, Tiddlywiki. There's a name I haven't heard in a while.
It's
It's a
still
terrible
around.
name for a product. I mean, is it just a note-taking app? Like what? I've never heard of that.
So back in
It'd be hard
2000,
for us to spell it at this point. Like, I don't know.
Tiddlywiki.
There you go.
Anyways, way back in the day, it was like a single page web browser JavaScript application you could
Mhm.
like save to your computer. And back then, like you had a local HTML file, it could write to local files on your computer. Yeah,
What?
it could.
What?
Yeah. Yep. So you would open this local file and you'd be like, you click an element, it would make an element, and it would update itself.
Oh man.
Isn't that kind of what Obsidian does today?
Obsidian's an
You kind
Electron
of write
app.
Markdown and
It makes a bunch of files.
okay.
But it's its own application. This would
All
be like if I sent you an HTML file, it could execute code and just write something to itself. I mean,
through IE6.
Of course.
I mean,
of course. IE6 is the
that old version doesn't work anymore, and they have newer
I
versions.
wonder
that do
why.
work.
It's like, yeah, modern web applications don't allow the client in the browser to just like
Write files.
write
But-
files to your desktop. Like
I still have my original Tiddlywiki when I was starting to learn ServiceNow, and it's crazy. Like, there's not a. I mean, back then it felt like I had a ton of notes, but I look
Yeah.
at it now and it's like nothing.
well,
Like
so
I could take that amount of notes in like 2 days now.
let's discuss this because I think this is a fun backstory, right? Because I know this story. I don't know that Jace knows what I'm talking about, but Jace or news.jace.pro was started as like your like note taking, right? Like it was just links of like things that you liked.
It
No.
was originally just a
Or that's
list
your
of
blog, yeah.
RSS feeds.
Right.
My blog was another place where I just took notes because I'm like Chuck and like you guys constantly trying new things to take notes in different places. And I'm always for trying new things.
Mhm.
There is a problem with that, is that when you migrate from one note taking system to another one, you have this whole migration problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm on the flat. If I'm going to do digital, it's going to be simple files. And if I need images, it'll be a tab. It'll be like images in that list of files, and I reference those things. Which means I'm not compatible with OneNote or Evernote or any of those special things. But it means that regardless of what happens to those products, my notes will still be workable.
You know what I love about that is that user experience, like we tend to be in IT and we tend to be on top of these things where we're doing the migration and doing all the work, but we don't tend to see the user experience, right? It's those kinds of things where it's like, wow, I migrated my OneNote to my Evernote, or and it just went images, where it was like, yeah, that probably worked in like a Scrum meeting where someone was like, what if we just exported it to PNG and then everyone could just do whatever they wanted with it? And it was like, yeah, that's fine. Like as a developer, I go, wow, yeah, going between different protocols or different applications is probably a pain in the butt, right? Like I wouldn't want to write that. At the same time, I'm like, well, why do that? Like come on,
the
man.
older I get, the less I am incentive to go try the latest, hottest new thing, because I have more legacy data behind me.
I just
And-
get
and
more
when,
entrenched. Yeah.
Exactly. And at this point, you might say, well, OneNote's free and Evernote's
Mhm,
$45 a year. It's like, you know what? That $45 is valuable to me to know that everything is still there.
Well,
And I have the APIs or the IFTTT recipes to go do it.
Mhm.
Joseph had a good note that you just popped up about
the
keeping a pocket
pocket.
notebook.
Mhm.
That is a great idea. Always have some way of taking notes
Something.
quickly. I mean, if you're a high-tech person, you might just shout into your watch and go,
Sure.
hey, take a note. And
Right.
You can do that with your mobile devices. I think if I said the right words, my phone would come up and it would
Sure.
create a note in Evernote for me, or a reminder in Todoist, or
Yeah.
whatever I tell it to do. So you can hook up the technology so that you don't
Yeah.
lose those moments. The hardest ones I found are when you're in the shower and you get that great
Oh,
idea. It's like,
man.
I want a grease pen with one of those white boards that I go, or
In the
write with
shower.
soap on the window. Something.
I used to tell a joke. I used to tell a joke about I should be billable in the shower. I told our CEO, I'm like, I should be billable in the shower. I'm like, because you know how many times I've like solved a problem because I was just like, I need to go like get ready for work, and like it just
Yeah.
came to me, and then like I
Yep.
did 80 miles an hour down the freeway because I had to go fix this thing at work. Right? I'm like, I should be billable in the shower. You same thing, right? Like you should
Joseph, Joseph's works in the middle of the night too. Because there's a
Yeah.
lot of times you wake up in the middle of the night and go, I've got an idea. And
Yeah.
sometimes you wake up in the morning going, what was I, that is the stupidest idea. And other times you go, hey, that's a great insight to finish this project or whatever.
Lombardo says Evernote for life. You'll get that just that urge, right? Like, and to your point, Chuck, where you said this is just like a brain dump, right? Like this is where just everything goes. Like have a place where it doesn't, there's no organization. There's no requirement. It's just get it out of my brain as quickly as possible.
It has to be a trusted place though.
Mhm.
You can't
Oh,
just
yeah, no,
jot it down. Yeah,
don't get me
that's
wrong.
the big thing. I mean, being a David Allen getting things done advocate for years, you have to trust your system.
Right.
Because if you've got notes here and notes there and tasks here and tasks there, you don't have any central place to go to say, this is my source of authority. This is what's telling me to go today.
Right.
The big way of that I drive things is what's on my calendar. In fact, I'll look at it tonight and go, how early do I got to get up tomorrow? Oh, I got an 8:30 call with my mentee. I've got to mentally prepare for that. So I know whether I can sleep until 5:30 or 7:30 or whatever. And that kind of sets the tone for the day. And then I get up and look at the calendar and I start writing it down on the Remarkable and going, what am I going to be taking notes for today, kids? What's on my calendar?
Yep.
And so being ready for that stuff keeps a lot of the surprises at bay. Obviously, surprises come up in every day, in every life.
Yeah.
But being able to adapt that, if you didn't take the notes, you can't adjust to those emergencies.
Exactly.
Somebody says, hey, grandma just got taken to the hospital. Like, okay, drop everything. We're going to the hospital. What does that mean when you're done with that particular hospital emergency? Can you come back and pick things up as it was? You better have the notes, you better have the tasks, you better have, the calendar to resume your life where it left off.
Yeah. And Joseph, he's got ADD. I'm the same way. I don't have like a neurodivergent, like my wife has epilepsy, right? Like at any moment, and I don't like saying this, like she could have a seizure. I need to help her, like anything. And it's like, I could be pulled out of whatever I'm doing, like at any moment. And so I have to have a system in place where I can get it down and into, like you say, a trusted source as quickly as possible. Like absolutely. And to me, like, I keep so I don't even erase. So with Rocketbook, right? Like this is why I want to go to Remarkable, because I have this dilemma, right? Of I've scanned it in, I've moved it into my OneNote, and then I'm like, do I erase it? Like, am I sure? I'm done? Like, do I
You
erase
still don't.
it?
It's supposed to be erasable. I have a Rocketbook too, Mark. You've used it.
Do you know what do you want to know what the most anxiety? It's like, okay, but what if? Like, what if I didn't get it all the way synced in? Or what if, like, I've had that happen where it's gone to Rocketbook and then I'm like, throw it to OneNote and it's gone, and I went erase and I'm like, ooh, not what I wanted to do. So
you have to have verification in there. If that's your process,
well,
you got to make sure it made it to the other side.
Yeah, trust but verify, right? Like, I unfortunately learned, like, to the point where I there's points where you put your trust in, right? Where I did it, I snapped the picture, it went to Rocketbook, and I'm like, but I didn't like, I'm lazy. I don't want to go and trust but verify every single step of the way. And of course, I've got 3 steps in my process because I'm a techno idiot, and like it's way overly complicated than it should be.
You got to make it as easy as possible to get
easy.
that.
Yes, it's got to be easy.
It's got to be easy to capture.
if it's not easy to put it out of your brain, if it's not easy to get it out of your like fingers, however that happens to keyboard, pen, paper, whatever, you're not going to take the notes. You're going to stop taking notes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's
like anything that deters you from taking that note.
Yeah.
Like with Rocketbook, I stopped using it just because I don't want to take my phone out and take a picture of it.
Really? Because to me, that's where I go and review them again. Like I actually read through them after they've been like sunk into my Rocketbook. That's my trigger to go and look at them again.
You have to clear those books out like every 30 days. Otherwise the ink sticks to the pages.
Oh yeah,
and it becomes that's a problem. If it were up to me, I would just write on those pages until the book was full. And then I would scan them all in. And then I would get rid of it.
Here's a uniquely Arizona problem, and this happened once. I have a
It dried out
once. No, it didn't dry out. This stuff it reacts to heat. And so I had it sitting in the car in the summertime on the seat.
And it's like thermal paper
went, boop, gone. No, the ink is thermal. The ink is thermal.
So, the note disappears if it gets too hot.
Gone.
You should not use Rocketbook, sir.
This reminds me of the people at the pizza place that print out your receipt and then stick it to the hot box. You get home and the receipt is black.
Yeah. So in Arizona, just for people that don't quite get this, right? Like in Arizona, if I go get a receipt printed and I in the middle of summer and I stick it on the dashboard of my car, it's like
120 in the car, like, at least.
Yeah, at least 100% at least. And that thing will be a crinkled mess of blackness, right? It looks just like completely
How
black.
much did I spend? No clue.
I mean,
no clue.
Can you order like a notepad with a spiral that has orange triangles, like so you don't have to use the Rocketbook ink?
Why? You just make it yourself.
Right. You could do that. Are you going to do that?
Yeah, that's what I did for my. I'm so lazy. I'm so cheap. I didn't want to buy the whiteboard sticks, and I was like, I bet you could just do this with triangles, and that's all I did. I printed triangles and put them up there.
Okay, I'm gonna take us in another direction. Do you take notes for non-work things?
Oh, absolutely.
Such as
I started doing this, like taking notes about. Well, so before. Probably 2018. No, I took no notes for my personal life.
Okay.
But then I started using Obsidian, and like they're like, oh yeah, you should put notes down about people. Like put down things that they say, like to remind you to like get them like a gift that they might talk about, or maybe they order a specific food, or maybe like you don't want to forget that, I don't know, your daughter said she loved this song or she hated that song or whatever. And then on her birthday, you can like just make note of that thing. But no, I didn't take notes on personal stuff probably until like last 3 years.
Okay. Me too. I started doing a monthly call with a number of friends just to keep in touch. I said, there's no reason why I can't keep in touch with people that I've known for 40, 50 years and have a Saturday call with them for an hour. Sure. It takes minimal time. But when it's once a month, it's tricky to remember what they said last month or 2 months before. But if you jot it down, then you go, hey, how was your trip to Hawaii? Or it becomes more about them, and that increases the relationship improves because you're engaged with what they're saying and what they said. Even my parents, we have a weekly Zoom call, and I go, hey, have you got your bikes out yet? Part of it is seasonal. Hey, how's the housing situation looking? You mentioned that. Or how's Auntie what's her face doing? Because I took notes, and that frees up my brain so that I can do other more productive work. That and the other one is even weirder because it's not even like relationship based. We do a podcast called The Topic is Trek. And one of our assignments is to keep up on the latest episodes. So we just finished up Star Trek Picard. We just started Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I'm not going to ruin anything for you, but I make notes throughout the show. Good quotes that were in the show, what's happening, so that when we do our podcast, I can go back and say, hey, did anybody think, why is this happening now? And that's not supposed to go there. So it jogs my brain so that I can have a better dialogue with the other hosts during the show. But there's no check boxes. There's no calendars. There's little to no iconography at all on this thing. Maybe a the letter Q for, I got a question about this.
Mhm.
So, different types of note taking in different contexts is perfectly okay.
How do you write a big giant Q? I'm not going to get into it. Never mind. I'm not
I
going
write
to.
the letter Q.
Yeah, I know. I get that.
Q
And
colon.
how do you make a difference? I mean, you're talking Picard, right? I'm like, how do you make the like? I don't.
And it's
Sorry.
not the character Q.
I know. I'm just kidding. Come on.
Although I
what's
was
funny?
thinking about that going, am I going to get confused by my own notes? No, this is Q colon on the far left, indicating this is a question I have.
There you go. That's why I wanted to know. I'm like, because I just write a big old Q all over the place. I'm like, was that a question or did he say something cool? Like,
I will admit that my handwriting is pretty atrocious.
mhm.
I
Yeah,
have a certain style of looping letters, and my M's and my N's and my U's look a lot alike because
terrible.
it's just sort
Yeah.
of this. Now, what I found in the last couple of weeks, this is new, is if I slow down. You don't have to write
Mhm,
as fast
mhm.
as you possibly can. That's a bad habit I picked up in college 30
Right,
some years ago
right.
because I was trying to keep up with Professor Kilt or Dr. Kilton then, and he wrote fast. So I had to write fast and my handwriting quality went in the toilet.
Yep.
Now I realize, look, I'm going to draw a letter as good as I can,
Right, right.
reasonably paced, and move on to the next letter
Yeah, so
and
we
move
can
on to the
read it.
next letter. Exactly. It's more about what can I absorb later.
Mhm.
If
Yep.
I'm watching Star Trek, dang it, hit the pause button. It's not
Yeah,
live
yeah, yeah.
TV anymore. Take your note and move on. If I'm in a Zoom meeting, the icons help to speed
Yep.
things up, and
Yeah.
I will write things down. So it's I'm sort of focusing more about the quality of the notes again.
Sure. Sure.
Did
And
you guys ever use LiveScribe?
no,
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
It was a pen that you had to buy special
Oh!
dot matrix paper with that recorded what you drew and it digitized it like immediately,
Sure.
like to itself. But it
that sounds
also
Evernote and Moleskine had something like that
Hmm.
for a while too.
it
Wait, is
also
that what
had
it's
a
is it called?
feature where it could record the voices. So you could play back the notes and you could take the pen and touch on the paper where
Oh,
you had wrote the note and it would play back the noise from when you wrote the note there. And that was awesome, except it creeped everybody out who knew what it did in the room. So I stopped
Michael,
using it.
Michael, I won't even get into my signature, but there's only 3 letters left in my name. I
Just no
write my
letters.
signature so fast. It's
Mikey,
like it's gotten worse over the years.
my
And
wife's
even
like,
if
no one could copy yours because it's just scribbles. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm the only one
yeah,
that knows my
that's
scribbles.
the point of a signature, though.
But you see,
It
even if
should
you
be
scribble
unique.
with that light scribe
Yeah.
pen, you could know what the note was being taken at the time because it would just play the audio it heard back to you.
Right. Right. So, all right. So let's I thought it was cool. I mean, like I thought that was a cool tech, but I never really jumped in it because I needed the special paper, right? I don't like having to need special paper
I
unless I'm
totally agree. But they took away the whole requiring you to have like a syncing process to a computer if you didn't want it. And
yeah.
it also took care of the my notes are not legible because it
Right,
also had the
right.
audio,
Because you
which
could
was
read, yeah.
fantastic. It also had this really not dumb, it was fun feature. You could draw a piano and you could play the piano.
Oh, I remember that. I do remember seeing something about that. That almost reminds me of you guys are a little younger than I. Remember Bill Cosby had a show or a little snippet called Picture Pages? Do you remember seeing that on TV?
Mm-mm.
It was like between segments of cartoons or something, and he would come out and he would say, "Let's get out our Mortimer Ichabod writer." And it was a little stylus, and as you drew something, it would make this do 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 do
Wow.
do do. It would make a sound. Like, oh, I still want to use that with my remarkable.
Like sing songs in meetings where it's like, what is
Right.
that noise?
What is
It's
that
just,
noise? I'm just taking notes.
wow. So okay. I wanted to point this out, right? Because we've touched on this. Like, what method do we use? Is it I don't know what the names of all the note taking methods is. You want to know why? Because I don't use one. Like, don't use a method. Don't go learn some framework and go like I have to do it this way. And it's like, no, come on. Just
Yeah,
write
there's a
your
lot
note.
of
There's a
focus on
framework you should know. Just write it down. That's
Yeah,
it.
write it down.
right. Get it out of your head. I mean, if you want to go research bullet journaling and make up your own
Mhm.
version of that, if you
Mhm.
want to get into getting things done, and I mean, you listen to David Allen, he doesn't prescribe any specific technology for getting things done. He says you
No,
could do
no.
this on paper, you could do it on index cards, you could do it electronically, you could use any one of number of software packages.
Yeah.
I think he used Lotus Notes when he first came out with this thing. He tells you how old it is, but uh, it's more about the process of getting it out of your head and writing it down into a trusted system. And I've always gone back to that. Whenever I feel stressed, it means I'm trying to hang on to too much. And I even have a page or a notebook in my Remarkable called Brain Dump. Just it's
Wow,
time
okay.
to flush the brain and figure out where all this stuff goes.
Right,
So
right.
you're trying to hang on to too much. You've got housework going on. You've got yard work going on. You've got vacations being planned. You've got 3 projects at work. Okay, make that 13 projects at work. What is it that's stressing you out and what's next so that you can get that out? So it's like, just write it out. If it's a mind map that drives that, great. If it's a
Great.
outline that drives that, great. Just get
Right.
it out of your head and you will feel so much better. Then you can start to organize it and slice it and dice it and do
Yeah.
whatever you need to do with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just like, I think there's a lot of pressure put on that, right? Of like you've got to do it this way, or you've got to write this, or
Yeah.
who cares? Like, it doesn't matter.
Just
If
write
you
it down.
Just write it down. If you write it in pictures, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter to me. And that's why, like, I was surprised when, you had asked the question, Chuck, of like, do you take notes in your personal life? I'm like, all the freaking time. Like,
Yeah.
like, and, things I think, social media posts or, take it. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't write when I go through and I do show notes of like what time I think something was interesting. It's like, I don't write that in the same format that I would write like my meeting notes, right? It's the same. It's
Right.
not the same format that I would write like go write the, figure this out from your manager, right? It's totally different because it just works differently in each situation. Make it work for the situation.
Yeah, we've got our knowledge conferences coming up.
Yeah.
I don't
What?
have
That's
some
coming
of it
up?
is on a calendar, and some of it I wrote down just because I wanted to remember when it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like a calendar. There's hours on the left-hand side, and there's blocks and
Mhm.
locations, but you know what? It sticks a lot better in my head because I wrote it down and I viscerally attached to that.
Yeah.
And if somebody says, "Hey, I've got this thing at 5:00," going, "No, I'm doing karaoke from 5 to 6, but I'll
Right.
join you after that."
Right.
You know,
It's the method that's the most, the most impactful. It doesn't have to be the most efficient. It just needs to be the one
Right.
that works the best for your brain. That's it. Bar
frankly, I
none.
find writing is kind of fun too.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Right? Like, and writing notes, like, I feel it's freeing, right? Because I can just write whatever I want and structure it
Yep.
however I want, and I can go back to it later and figure it out. And I feel like 9 times out of 10, when I am like, to your point, Chuck, when I'm stressed, right? I just need to start getting like I find it's at the end of the night, right? Where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing the next morning. Like, I have no idea what I got to get done. Like, I
Yeah.
just sit there and I just list it all out. I get it all down, and then I go organize it and figure out what I got to do later. And even if you do it, 2 or 3 days later, it doesn't matter. You've got to get it written down. Like, just get it down there so you don't forget it. That's the biggest point. Is
We
like, you're
had
gonna forget
we
it if
had
you
a
don't put it down.
we had a hackathon a few weeks ago at the end of March here in Phoenix, and it wasn't so much teams anymore because we had a smaller group, so everybody was on the same team. It was one team, and it was great discussion, great brainstorming. And I took out my Remarkable, and you can do a screen share thing. So I was sharing it to the laptop, and the laptop was showing it on the projector. And as I would draw, I said, "Wait, we need to map out our data model before we begin this. Here's a table, and it's related to this. And no, maybe we need a many to many." And I had lots of squares, and it was really a crappy drawing, but it turned up that, like every hackathon, you have to do a presentation at the end to show what you built.
Yeah.
That image made it into the final presentation. They're like, "Hey, that's kind of creative, actually." But it showed that you can do these kinds of things both interactively in the moment, but yet reference them later.
Right,
was
right.
was kind of fun. Uh, and like you said, it was liberating to get it out of
Mhm.
your head.
Yeah.
And if somebody said something, well, you erase that line and you draw it
Right.
over to this line.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's the more you're right, the more it kind of starts pouring out. Like, that's what I feel like. Like, I didn't even some of the times I'll put things tasks in, or Todoist is my favorite. We can talk about that in another episode. But it's I I feel like when I'm putting things in and just kind of like rapid fire writing them down and getting them in, like it's like there are times where like I'll ideate something where I'm like, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that while I was worried about all this, but just the fact of me writing it down helped, right? Organize what this is.
It exposes new cracks that you may
Absolutely.
not have originally found.
Yeah.
And that in alone relieves the stress.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So tie it all back. We'll go back to last week with imposter syndrome, right? If you're fighting that, a lot of times it's just getting organized, right? A lot of high functioning people, it's just getting organized. They need to get it out of their brain and onto paper so that they're worried about forgetting it. I mean, really what it is I'm worried I'm going to forget it. And that's the biggest issue.
Well, and to your point, you asked me earlier this week, you said, how do you get this all done? You know, you've got podcasts going on, you've got videos going on, you've got knowledge to plan for. And a lot of it is just keeping it organized, and note taking is a major, major part of keeping it organized. When we had a speaker change on Monday for the third time in 2 days.
Yeah.
So it's like for the keynote, right? Hey, welcome aboard, new guy. And my boss says, we've got till Friday to sort this all out. And I went, no problem. I know exactly what needs to be done. I know what calendar appointments need to go on here. We're going to check in daily, blah, 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 blah. Build the demo, And by Wednesday, we had it pretty solid. But I asked him today just for confirmation. I said, how do you feel about what we've done in the last 5 days? He said, great.
Yeah.
And that's because I was taking lots of notes every day, and I was paying attention to what's important and what's not important, especially, you got to be able to prioritize. And again, we're getting into, and I hate to use the term time management because nobody can manage time. There's only 24 hours in a day. It's all about the priorities.
Yeah.
So we are getting into passionate territory again, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's all right.
So-
It's all right. Well, we're hitting
it might be a fun trend. What?
Nothing. I said we're hitting that 1 hour mark, right? So we're getting to the
You
end
know-
of the show, which is when we tend to trail off and
When you keep referencing Todoist and calendars, it might be a fun spin-off on this episode.
Yeah.
Come back.
Yeah.
on, like,
How do you manage?
Not how do you manage like everything, but how do you manage your work? Some people I know, they just write everything in a calendar.
Yep.
Other people use a system like Todoist or Trello. And obviously different projects have different like shared spaces.
Oh, and then when you have to engage with somebody else, what's their system and how do you integrate that into yours? So we got some future topics to cover.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll put it on the schedule. But absolutely. So let's round it out. Note taking. I think first of all, make it work for you, right? That's
Get it out of your head, write it down.
Just put it down on paper or on the computer.
Yeah, get it somewhere, right? If you're comfortable I know we said no typing. If you're comfortable typing, don't do it in a meeting. But type it down. Like get it down on paper. Get it. I said get it down on paper again. Like just get it down. Get it out of your mind. Get out of short-term memory, right? Like that's the biggest thing. Is I look at it like that's my RAM, right? Like
oh my gosh! As soon as my wife tells me 3 things we need from the store, I'm writing it down. I can keep 1 or 2 in my head, but when it gets to 3, it gets really sketchy.
No,
I tell her to text me at that point.
Yes, no, I'm the same way. 3 is my limit. I'm like, you can give me 3 things, and after 3, you better send me a list because
I'll be walking through Home Depot going light bulbs, extension cord, and damn it, what was the third one?
And that third one, right? Yeah, that's the one that's always the hardest to remember. That third one.
You get home and go, I needed a wax ring for the toilet. Back to Home Depot.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Don't forget, if you're replacing toilets, don't forget your wax rings.
I buy 2 because I always screw up the first one.
Always buy 2.
That is the furthest off topic we've been yet.
Listen, if you wanted to learn about plumbing, ServiceNow, and note taking, you're in the right place.
All you got to do for those things is call a plumber.
No.
Now, how you fix your toilet, I don't know.
A wax ring costs $2.
Be a homeowner, Jace. You'll learn so much about plumbing when you be a homeowner.
We are a homeowner. My wife takes care of everything. She's amazing.
That's
there
awesome.
are certain things I won't touch, but I will attack the toilet issues.
Oh,
You're not a homeowner. At least you don't feel like it's your house until you've repaired something on that toilet. I don't know what it is about that.
Man.
Okay, close us out, Mark.
Close us out. I'm trying, Chuck. Do you know how hard it is to rein in Chuck Tomasi? Like, do you have any idea? It's
On a
like, well, I better
Friday
just let
night?
him go. I don't know. Like, he's kind of the king.
Thanks
like,
for letting me
can't help
hijack
this
your
song.
show again.
No, come on. Anytime you want to come on is a lot of fun. So, let's close it out. I think that was a good time. We didn't open the chat, but we had good chat. Nobody jumped on.
We did lots of good interactions between Joe and Mike, and David, and
Yes,
Robert.
thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody that showed up. And if you're watching this video on demand, like, subscribe, everything. I'm trying to get the channel up and running, please. It helps against the algorithm, which is why I called it professional note taking, because the algorithm, it's great. So, this is where we're coming up with topics, but I'm going to run through. I'm going to give everybody a chance to, pitch what you're selling. So let's start with Jace. Jace, anything you want to tell the people? I'll do you on the big screen here.
Sure. News.jace.pro. Now you can upvote stuff. Sorting that's a whole nother problem. But
upvotes are new. Filtering
upvotes,
is incoming.
You can still search stuff. I just don't have it filtering. Also, if you have any newsworthy stuff that you want to have me talk about in my 5-minute bit, send me a message on LinkedIn. It's hard to source that stuff. Then LinkedIn makes it really difficult to pull it out.
Awesome. Yeah, please check that out. News.jace.pro. I'll throw a link in the description down below. But yeah, absolutely. And over to you, Chuck. Let's pitch what you're selling.
There's a lot. I won't kid you. I mean, there's stuff about podcasting. There's stuff about ServiceNow. There's stuff about karaoke. But if you want to find the single central point of my internet universe, it's at chucktomasi.com. And that will point you in every direction from Amazon to GitHub to YouTube and everything in between. So that's where you want to start if you're looking for anything about me, even the obscure. Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, please remember, like and subscribe down below. If you've got questions, you're looking for me, PhxDev.me is my website. Again, you can find my social, PhxDev. On damn near any platform. A lot of fun. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for hopping on. This was a lot of fun. Pleasure.
Thank you, chat, for being so lively tonight. This was great. And again, remember next week. So next week, it seems to be topical. I don't know. We're going to talk about conferences. I wonder why that is. Like,
I hope I'm home.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that should have been this week.
No, it shouldn't have. If I was good at planning things, it would have been this week. But I'm bad at planning things, so it's next week during the conferences.
There's still time.
Have your feet hurting, right? But there are some other conferences that are later in the month.
Oh, so I want to be a part of that because I got words about conferences.
Oh man, okay.
Words of wisdom, not words of condemnation.
Chuck always gives me.
They can be the same.
If it weren't for conferences, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Same. All right.
It's all about the hallway track.
Check this out.
I love that term. Who came up with that?
That was this. Well, no, it was. Come on, that's not it.
The hallway track.
That's
you said it. You said it on a comment somewhere.
You could call that the happy hour track. You could call that whatever. There's a lot to be said for the networking.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the writing community, they call it the BarCon.
You guys are
BarCon.
Stop giving it away.
We're giving them teasers. Use that as your snippet for next week.
This will be my snippet for next week. You're right, Chuck. I'll be like, join me, Chuck, and Jace. I'll be like, Chuck's gonna be there. Like if you think I wasn't already pimping you out for this stream, which was a special guest, right? It's like next week. It's like Chuck said he was gonna be.
Guess I got no choice.
Awesome. All right, let's close it out. That'll be the clip for next week's show that I'll chop up and throw into every platform. It'll be fun. But anyway, thanks again. Thank you everybody for joining me. Highlights of my week. Doing this is a lot of fun. So, and I love it when my friends get together. So, next week I will have a small surprise. I'm hoping that it'll be delivered in my inbox right as we speak right now. So next week will be fun. So please join us next week, 5:30 Pacific time, and we'll see you then. Thanks, everybody.
Pizza time.
Pizza time.
See ya.